There have been a few moments here and there in my life when I saw my mother not as my mother, but as a human being. There have been moments when I thought, I do not really know this woman. And those moments are uncomfortable. They are intimate in a way that transforms our relationship. It gets transformed in those rare moments. Sometimes we're so good at keeping people in their roles that it's difficult for us to see them in any other way. It's difficult to see them as anyone else. It's easier for me to keep my mother in her mother box. It's like the time I saw my second grade teacher in the grocery store. What is she doing in the grocery store? It never occurred to me that teachers had a life outside the classrooms. I never thought of my teachers in any other way. I never really thought about it at all. But seeing Mrs. Hunter in the grocery store was earth-shaking. It forced me to consider all kinds of new ideas. Do teachers have spouses? Do they have children? Do they have parents? And oh my God, if they have parents, how old they must be. I think I've seen them eat, but I thought they only ate school food, like animals in the zoo only eat zoo food. Yet here was my teacher in the grocery store. How did she get here? I thought that maybe teachers were like G.I. Joe or Barbie dolls, idealized and packaged in boxes and put away until it was time for them to teach again. And I dismissed the absurdity of that notion pretty quickly, but I did entertain it, and there were aspects of it that appealed to me and seemed right to me. See, teachers were like gods, not human. It was quite a new notion to me that teachers were people too. It was quite a new notion to me that they had lives outside their dominion of the classroom. And so it is with my mother. I had a slow dawning realization that she had a life before she was a mother. Wow. I have to make myself think and acknowledge that she has a story beyond the confines of motherhood and being a wife. It is always a new level of awareness to me that my mother is a person too. She has a life and multiple storylines separate and intertwined with her storyline of being my mother. Wow, this is amazing. Wonderful. And how dare her? My mother has been an employee. She worked many different jobs. My mother almost became an airline stewardess. She was pretty enough. I can remember many times she would bring cupcakes as my room mother, and my classmates would comment how pretty she was, and I felt proud. She's been a friend to many different people. She has interests beyond her family. She was a Cub Scout den mother, a band booster, a Girl Scout leader, Tupperware manager, a big sister, a preschool teacher, and a preschool curriculum specialist. Even though this June she will be 80 years old, she still has a childlike curiosity and a sense of awe about life. She sees faces in the landscape of mountains and animals in the shapes of the clouds. She's proud of the men her sons have become, and she still tries to nurture us. Sometimes she calls my brothers and I by each other's names, and will often include the list of names, in the list of names, the name of every dog she ever loved. And despite this, we recognize she loves us, and we will always recognize her affection when she calls us by her favorite name of endearment, Pumpkin Doodle. One day, she happened to come by my place of employment at the Salvation Army Adult Rehabilitation Center in Evansville, Indiana. These are some pretty hardened men. There I would work with drug and alcohol addicted homeless men, and these men who had several families scattered throughout the country, and they lived the culture of the streets and the culture of prisons. In front of them, she says goodbye to me, shouting, "Goodbye, I love you, Pumpkin Doodle." It made quite an impression on them. My mother is old and young at the same time. She is trying to heal the little girl inside of her, but every year she grows in grace and healing. I see things she wants me to see and things she doesn't want me to see. I'm still working out what I see and whether or not I want to see it. And this says more about me than it does about her. It speaks to my own need to grow and stretch my capacity to see her, to know her, and love her as my mother and as more than my mother. Courtney Martin is a columnist for On Being, and she writes about this experience. She wrote, I'm quoting, "I'm struck by the power and perhaps related paucity of these moments. There are so few of them. Even now, 37 years into knowing her, it's like I can totally see her. I can't totally see her, I can't totally see her. I'm too close. It's like I'm a museum wanderer standing far too close to the large-scale abstract painting that I'm madly in love with. If only I could step back and take it in its entirety. But I'm stuck studying an inch at a time. If only I could look at my mom as she is rather than as a psychic's prediction of what I might become. Or a generational spell to break. Or a saint to worship. Or a wound to heal. It's all so confusing, so muddled. I'm old enough to understand that it's so much more about me than her." Unquote. There are a couple of things my mother told me that I carry embedded in my character. She said it to me growing up, and she still tells me this when we speak on the phone. "Ken, I will always be your mother." As my mother ages, I see the need for greater care and nurturing, but it will be care and nurturing not as she did for me as a child growing up. It's not a role reversal. I can hear her say, "I will always be your mother." Sometimes she says it to reassure me, just like the presence of God in Psalm 139. I can always count on her love. Sometimes she says it to me to remind me of my place in the hierarchical dimensions of our relationship. I will always be your mother. My care and nurture of her needs to be characterized as adult to adult, not parent to child, or any other kind of role reversal. Life is whatever you make it. This one is powerful. She would say this to me, and it always meant that I'm responsible for my well-being and my destiny. One time when I was moping around after a heartbreak, she threw a chair across our dining room and put a dent in the wall. She said, "Stop it. Life is whatever you make it. If you love her, then tell her, but quit feeling sorry for yourself." And so I did. And those words have served me all my life and have brought me courage and some of the best things in my life. She said, "I'm not a thing, I'm a person." I'm talking about you and other things, but mostly about you. Okay. Quit while you're ahead. Is yeah. Okay, never mind. There was a joke. There was a joke about, okay, never mind. All right. So anyway, friends, I hear these words and many other wise things from my mother, but as I grow older, I hear more than the voice of my mother. I hear the voice of this totally other human being. For my whole life, the voice of this totally other human being has been calling me to be the best human being that I can be. And it just so happens to sound a lot like my mother. And so, I hope my mother knows I see her for so much more than just my mother. And perhaps that is an appropriate gift for Mother's Day. Amen.